teams, learn how to, oh, I gotta close this, sorry. Learn how to fill in applications, write resumes, write cover letters, specifically for students who are on robotics teams, because they have specific strengths that we want to talk about, and we want to really talk about how we can share our experience on a robotics team with people that we're applying for. So today this is a 4-part series. So today we're going to do part 1. In our 4-part series, we're going to talk about writing applications, cover letters, and resumes, which is today. Then next week, we're going to talk about what to bring to an interview. So being overall prepared for that. Our 3rd part, we're going to discuss virtual interviews. And then the last one, we're going to talk about in-person interviews. If you have taken Careers in Civics, which is a grade 10 course, this may be a review for you, which is totally fine. So today, like I said, part 1, we're going to specifically talk about writing applications, cover letters, and resumes. We're going to cover how to track your experience, and that is step number 1, absolutely hands down, no question. So you want to think about your experience before you even apply for a job. We're going to talk a little bit about doing your research. We're going to talk about the keeping it simple idea, and we'll just really quickly touch on what soft skills are. We will give a little bit of differentiation between what a cover letter, a CV, and a resume is. We are going to get into detail about how to fill in an application, how to write your resume, and how to write a cover letter. So tracking your experiences, and like I said before, this is the most important place to start, because if you don't know where you've been, you can't make a plan for where you're going. Many, many, many professionals agree that writing down your experiences is step 1. You don't even want to think about applying for anything until you have an understanding of what you have done in the past. So I'm going to get you to think about going back to elementary school, thinking about when you gained leadership opportunities, when you acquired hands-on experiences, and when you started developing soft skills. All these sorts of things do happen in elementary school. They definitely get you get a bigger experience and you remember a lot more as you get older. But think about, you can talk about if you were a bus patrol, if you had leadership opportunities, any clubs or enrichment opportunities you had back there. So think about all those different experiences that you've had. And a couple of other things that you want to think about from experiences. If you watched YouTube videos or Khan Academy videos, think about what kind of learning you've done. Attending any conferences, if you've done that, or any sessions. If you've worked with a mentor, somebody who's an expert in their field, which is exactly what we do on a robotics team. If you have mentored other people, when you turned in your homework on time, it shows that you're punctual, it shows that you're responsible. If you've written any blog posts, or you've read any really good books. There are many, many ways to show what kind of learning you've done. So I'm just going to give you just a moment to type in the chat if I've missed anything. So any experiences that you may have had that you can include in your experiences journal. So I'll give you a moment if you want to type that in the chat, and then I will read them out. If anybody has any other ideas, you may not. I may have covered a lot of that. So anyway, about 5 more seconds. And we're going to move on. So there are some common ways to track your experiences. We can do it digitally, so you can use programs like Google Keep, Google Slides, Google Docs. There are so many different ways of tracking your experiences digitally. You could also just write them down in a journal, on pieces of paper, and just keep track of those. Doesn't matter whether you choose a digital place to track it or a paper place to track it. Just start writing down your experiences, because those are going to help you. The more experiences that you have, the more you'll be able to draw from when you start applying. Okay, so like I talked about before, if you've been a bus patroller in elementary school, any clubs that you've attended to, any extracurricular experiences that you have, write those down. You never know when you're going to be able to match a job, like something you're applying for, with a job, with an experience that you've had in the past. So like I said before, you want to find a digital space or a paper space and just start writing it down. It may be helpful, especially if you're doing it digitally, that you include pictures of what you've done. So some people include art or other things in their digital experiences. You could also consider doing a website. And I know that somebody I know, when they were in grade 12, they actually created a website for, or no, it was grade 11, for an English assignment. And that's a really good way of kind of thinking about how you can show yourself to the public. Please, please, please include your LA Car experience, because you have experience with programming, you have experience with building, you have experience with troubleshooting. You have experience with learning on your own, which I think is super, super important. A picture is 1,000 words. And so it's super, super important. I'm just gonna, make this a little bit smaller here. It's super, super important to include, if you can, pictures, because that's gonna help you. So I'm gonna tell a little story here, because one of the mentors that, I talked to about this, so he hires co-op students. And so he hires university co-op students, and he was in the hundreds of applications that he was reading, because when you hire a co-op student, you have tons and tons of people that you kind of need to rifle through and find the right people. And it was really funny. He told me the story of finding somebody that had applied saying that they were doing line following in university. And he thought that was kind of funny, because his grade 7, she's grade 9 now, daughter had learned that skill when she was younger. So you never know what kind of experiences you can share now, or that you've had now, that may match up to when you, depending on what you're applying for. So like Augustina said in the beginning of this, it is so important. You want to do your research. So spend time looking online to find information about the job you are applying for. Google is your friend. I mean, I just can't say it enough. Do your research, find, if it's a job, if it's an award, if it's an application, whatever it is, do your research, make your notes, do it right the first time. The other thing to consider is if you have a connection to a company or a place or something, depending on what you're applying for, use those connections. So if you know somebody who works for the company that you want to apply to, get them to drop off your resume for you, because that initial connection is going to really help you. You'll probably jump up a couple of levels in the job. So now we've come to keep it simple. I'm not even going to say anything here, because it's pretty obvious. We all need to keep it simple. We don't want to overcomplicate. We want to use really simple language. Don't use your fancy adjectives. Don't go into synonyms. Just be as simple as possible. Even if you don't have the experiences, they want to know that you're a quick learner and that you're mentorable. But just, keep it really, really simple. Super important. The other thing is to include links. So if you're sending a digital copy of your resume or filling in an application, if you can add links to that, it's super helpful, because then it just means that the person that's reading your application can just click and get some information super easy. You want to make it as simple as possible for them. I'm going to just talk, I think, a little bit about soft skills next. Yeah, perfect. What are soft skills? And so I'm going to actually let you read this on your own, and I'm just going to zip my lip for a second while you read through the wiki definition of what a soft skill is. Okay, so just a reminder that working on a robotics team and being part of a robotics team is a great way to share that you collaborate with people, that you work towards a common goal, that you problem solve, that you troubleshoot, all these great things. There's these buzzwords, and I'm going to go over them in my next slide. They're called the 4 C's, and the 4 C's stand for collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity, and innovation. And those are absolute soft skills. All those 4 They call them buzzwords, and that it's huge in education right now is teachers trying to get students to think about collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and communication. Those are, if you can use any of those like 4 C's in any of your application, resume, anything, you're good, because you're showing that you understand what the job market is looking for now. Okay, so let's get right into what is a cover letter, resume, and CV. I'm just going to skip the slide for a second because I'm going to take you through to what is a CV. Some people will mix up the terminology CV and resume. A CV is more specifically about what your academic experience is. And so like, you know, the older you get, you know, if you're applying for a master's or and then higher up, they may be asking for a CV. If a company asks you for a CV, they're probably talking about a resume. So just throw that out there. So here is a little table that I put together to talk a little bit about what the differences are between cover letter, resume, and CV. And I'm just going to give you some time to just look through that because I want to stop talking. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide, which is how to fill in an application. I have used the Tim Hortons application website just as a model, just to show you. If you're looking for a job, if you're looking to apply for anything, often a really quick Google search will find you online applications. And so the most important thing with that is, like I said, do your research. So figure out like what kind of a job you're applying for, what kind of awards you're applying for, what kind of anything that you're applying for. Write that down, make a note of that so that you can be specific when you start to write your application and then put together your resume. So on the Tim Hortons website, they actually have an online application, which is very common. And so they ask for information, your personal information. They're probably going to ask you about, you know, what kind of hours you're looking for, if you're looking for part-time, full-time. They're going to also ask about your work experiences, why you left, all that good stuff. So I've just put together a list of some examples of questions that may be on an application. If it's a job application, they may be asking if you want part-time, full-time, what days of the week you're available, when's the earliest that you can start, if you're currently working, how much notice do you need to give to employers. They want probably to see an example of your work experiences. So your duties and responsibilities, really, really simple. And dates of employment, including why you left. If you have never had a job before, it's okay to say this on an application. So this is specifically for a job application. If you've never had a job, there is nothing wrong with saying, I've never worked before, but I have volunteered and I've been on a team and all that great stuff. You want to talk about those soft skills, talk about your experiences in school. So it's really important when you fill out your application, just going to say it, you got to be honest, right? You can't make stuff up. You have to just, you know, tell them what you've done. You want to be specific. So give them specific details about what you have done. You want to understand what you're applying for. And this goes for whether you're applying for awards, whether you're applying for a job, like whatever you're applying for, just make sure that you understand it. And I can tell you a little story. It's super embarrassing. As I was putting this application together, I decided that I was going to nominate somebody for a volunteer award. And so I met with a bunch of team members and we wrote down, you know, why we thought this person is going to be a good volunteer. I read through everything and I saw the words 500, but I didn't realize it was 500 characters and not 500 words. So I wrote her application for her nomination with 500 words. And then when I actually went in to like type it in, it was only 500 characters and I had to do a lot of cutting. So understand what they're looking for. If possible, you want to start thinking about keywords. And so this is where it's really important to do research. So figure out what kind of language they use on their application, or not on their application, on their website. And you want to use those keywords specifically from there, because that's going to, first of all, show them that you've read what they've put out. And second of all, it's going to show them that you think about, as you fill out their application. The other thing you want to think about is using active verbs. So here we go. A promotion to supervisor was awarded to me after only 1 year of service. It's a very passive sentence. You want to get active. You want to use those verbs. After only 1 year, I earned a promotion to supervisor. So earn, that's a really, really big word. You want to use those verbs. You want to think about examples of what you've learned in the new skill and describe your hands-on experiences and especially your hobbies. So we're going to move on to writing your resume now. And as you can see at the top corner, I've added this really cute, adorable little crayon building that I thought was super adorable because you want to think about your layout and your structure. And somebody that I just heard of recently who sent in their application resume, they got the job because the employer liked the color of their resume. And so that's really important. Think about, adding some color if you have a color printer, making the layout stand out, making it visually appealing. That's super, super important. And again, like we just talked about, use those action verbs. Don't be passive, be active about talking about what you've done. When you're writing your resume, Google is your friend. So you can, anywhere you go, if you type in, resume writing for students, there are amazing resources everywhere. And so you can find, what to include, what not to include, how to set up your layout. Like you can even go in, if you use Google, you can go into Google Docs and just type in resume and they have a template right for you. And you can play around with that. So use that. When you've never had a job before, it's tricky to talk about your experiences. So I want you to think about your soft skills, like we talked about before, like volunteering, hobbies, like what you've done, what you've learned, and use those. Because even though you don't have a job experience, you have volunteer and you have like hands-on experiences being on a robotics team. Like I said before, you can create a portfolio. And so creating a website using Google Slide or Google Sites or Wix.com, which is another good website to use, would help you kind of as you organize, your learning experiences. And then you can share that website with a possible employer or somebody that you're applying, to university or awards or whatever to. It's just a really easy way for them to click and find all sorts of amazing things about you. So again, you want to identify the experiences the company is looking for. It's always a good idea to try talking about your content first. So just sit down with a trusted adult or friend and just talk about it. Because what's going to happen is the language that you're using as you speak is often very simple, and you can just start typing that up because it often works a lot better. You want to use simple descriptions of your experiences, so that keep it simple idea. When you're writing your resume, you want to think about your buzzwords. So your collaboration, creativity, critical thinking and communication, think about those buzzwords. So, if you write in your resume, you liaise with customers and team members. That's a really great word to use because it shows that you collaborate with other people. You could use the word collaborate, it's up to you. You want to reread your resume many times, making sure that you've put it through grammar and spell check. Ask somebody to review your resume for you. You don't want to hand in a resume that has mistakes in it because they'll just automatically throw it away. There's something else, and it's called the ATS, the Applicant Tracking System. I'm going to leave this for you to do a little bit of research on. This is something that companies are using more and more, just to kind of pick out little words as they're going through the amount of applications that they get. So now we're going to just talk really briefly about how to write a cover letter, because your cover letter is a great place to break away. So break those rules, break away from the resume. Some people don't do cover letters. I would highly encourage you to do a cover letter every single time you hand out anything, because it shows that, first of all, you know who you're sending it to. It's giving respect to the person that you're applying to. And then it's also a really good opportunity to talk a little bit about your experiences. So this is some information that I got from somebody who works in HR at Sponsor with the Rebels. And I'm just going to read it straight. So hold on. He said that we want to know why you feel validated in the skill. Did you do something that proves it? A resume is tough to fill with experience as a co-op applicant. He's specifically talking about a co-op student because you don't have any experience. But a cover letter is a great place to explain the reasons why. So for example, work, academic experience, anecdotally, why you think you'll be a star in the company. Because co-ops might not have a lot of work experience in coding, but explaining the fact that the combination of affinity and zest for development can really be helpful for a student, for somebody recruiting. So for example, if you write, I first wrote code at the age of 10 for kicks and have been repairing family PCs, coding projects, blah, 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 since I first laid eyes on this language early in life. So that kind of background is often missing in resumes. And this is what he said, but it can be baked deliciously into a cover letter. And somebody who's reading your cover letter will appreciate learning a little bit more about you. Because, you know, often resumes, they just blend together. They look all very similar because, you know, they're applying either, you know, applying for, you know, they have this kind of experience and, you know, this is, you know, they're all kind of the same. So you want to stand out, you want to be unique. So final note, you want to highlight your portfolio and tie it back to the role that you're applying for. Augustina had made a comment that is, oh no, I don't have it right here. Sorry, I'm going to add it. It's not on my slide presentation. You want to read and reread your application, cover letter, or resume before sending it out. So doing that final read is really, really important. And the other thing to mention is, as human beings, it's really easy for us to be humble and think about, you know, why, you know, that we're not really special. But when you're thinking about an application for anything, you want to be proud of your accomplishments and you want to talk about your accomplishments and you want to say why you're such an amazing person. And that often doesn't come naturally to people. And so I just want to encourage you to think about why you are a star, why you are amazing, and start practicing that. So saying it, because it's a lot easier to say it if you've said it before, which takes us to part 2. So next week, we'll be talking about why interviewing and preparation is so important, why it's important to prepare, which we've talked a little bit about that, but we're going to get more into detail. We're going to talk about why it's important to read everything before you interview. You want to understand the company position that you're applying for. It's you know, it's all basic, right? You want to understand what you're getting into. You want to have some questions prepared ahead of time, and we're going to talk about that next week, how you can go about doing that. We're going to talk relatively deeply about the STAR method and what the STAR method is and why it's really important. And then we're going to talk about putting everything together. So you've written your resume, you've written your cover letter, you have an interview or whatever it is, and how you can be physically ready to get into that interview. So these are some of the resources that I used as I was doing my research for this presentation. And I'm just curious if anybody has any questions.